going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I want to talk about today is Wesley Vissers winning this past weekend Europa Pro. So first and foremost, I want to say that I think Wesley looked incredible here. I think he made some pretty significant improvements, particularly to his lower body. If you look at the deep separations in cuts in his quads, as well as just the size of his legs in general, this has been something that people have really criticized about Wesley since he became a pro. And I feel like he's really brought up this part of his physique. His legs looked really impressive here. And I think it's something that he has noticeably improved. So I wanted to commend him for that. I thought his conditioning looked really good here. He's working with the same guy that coaches Urs Kalsinski, this guy called Boss of Outlaw. So he's kind of a guy that's known for bringing these guys in really good conditioning. And I think that's what Wesley displayed here, was really hard physique, really conditioned physique. And he beat Jose Maria Mete, who is Made Elman on Instagram, someone who he's also going to be facing at the Dubai Pro, this big classic physique show coming up. And he's also going to have to face there Terrence Ruffin. And I think this is going to be an interesting battle between him and Terrence, because obviously Terrence is on kind of a redemption journey this year after slipping in placings at the Olympia last year. But could you imagine what an upset that would be if Wesley were able to pull off the victory at a show like this Dubai show, and how big of a deal that would be? I'm not saying I think this is likely, but the possibility that he could take away the Olympia qualification from Terrence, the possibility might be slim. The odds might be low, but the chances of it happening are not zero. This was a really, really good-looking version of Wesley Vissers, and I would like to see this year at the Classic Physique Olympia, which he's now qualified for by winning this show. I would like to see him more in the conversation. I would like to see him in a first or second call-out. I would like to see him in a top 10 placing. I would like to see him compared more to some of the top guys, and maybe compared with some of these apples and oranges guys. Like him and Terrence obviously have two very different physiques. Terrence is a shorter guy. Wesley is taller, has a much bigger frame, and he's more imposing on stage, I would say. And this is kind of the comparison that you saw here with Wesley and Jose. A shorter guy versus a taller guy, with two very different strengths and weaknesses in their physiques. And I think this will be interesting to see at the Dubai Pro if Wesley could potentially push, even if he doesn't beat Terrence. Imagine if Wesley could just push him and there's a top two comparison of just those two guys. That would be huge for Wesley, and I think it would really build some momentum going into the Olympia for him if there's a conversation about him versus Terrence as a top two at this Dubai Pro show, which is what I would like to see. So congratulations to Wesley. I'm looking forward to seeing him at the Olympia, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about how Wesley looked here. And where do you think Wesley's going to place at this year's Mr. Olympia? Now, next up in the news, I want to talk a little bit more about this weekend's Europa Pro, Nathan versus Regan. The conversation has raged on. I was reading some of the comments on the video yesterday. People are really, really passionate about this particular conversation. Obviously, Nathan beat Regan, and the scorecards are out now. So let's look at the scorecards first, then we're going to talk a little bit more about it and maybe show some video here. So first of all, what we're looking at here is you're looking at the scores from 3 judges. That's what these numbers reflect. The lowest score is the winning score. Bodybuilding is judged like golf. So when you see these numbers, essentially the judge is voting for which placing they would have you. So if you got 3 judges and they all vote for you in first, a unanimous decision for you winning would be a score of 3. So in this situation, as you can see, most of the scores are divisible by 3, except for Nathan and Regan's placing. Regan had a score of 4, and Nathan had a score of 5 at each round, prejudging and finals. So it was a 1-point decision at prejudging, 1-point decision at finals. When you add those 2 scores together, it was a 2-point decision, Regan with a score of 8, Nathan with a score of 10. So what do these numbers really mean? Well, for one, it means this general fan sentiment is correct, that Nathan and Regan were very, very close here. And it also means that Regan did not have a unanimous victory. This means that at least one of the judges had Nathan winning. If they all had him in second, his score would be 6. For example, if you look at Tim Budashim, who took third, his score was 9 at finals and prejudging because all 3 judges gave him a score of 3. 3 times 3 is 9, so it was unanimous that Tim Budashim was in third place. So the scorecard tells you it was very close, and at least one of the judges agrees with the fan sentiment that Nathan was the winner. So I think that validates some of the fan discussion that I saw immediately after the result was posted. Now, if you go back and look at the scorecard from the Italy show, the Flex Pro weekend that Nathan just won, the last time we saw him versus Regan, and he beat Regan there, his victory there was unanimous. You can see that Nathan has a score of 3, so all the judges had him winning there. And then Regan has a score of 6, so all 3 judges had him in second there. Now, I don't know if it was the same judges at both shows. I don't know if all the judges were the same, because they were in different countries. But again, I do think that kind of confirms this fan opinion that it was controversial that Regan won the Europa show, because that's a pretty big turnaround in the points from Italy to Spain, where I think Regan looked about the same in Italy and Spain. I think he may have looked slightly even better here this weekend. And I do think that Regan improved for this weekend show. But I don't think either of them looked drastically different between the two shows. But the scoring was completely flipped. It was drastically different, but it was very close. Now, let's look at some video from the show while we discuss it here. So after reading the comments from yesterday, like all the comments after the video and stuff, the main thing that I see the most often is A, Nathan was robbed, and B, the reason he was robbed was to gift Regan a spot at the Olympia. And people think that because A, Regan has a big following, and the Olympia would stand to profit from that, and B, because Nathan is already qualified, and they want more competitors at the Olympia. Now, I already said in yesterday's video the reason why I disagree with this partially is because the recent action that the IFBB took was to limit the number of people at the Olympia. By getting rid of the points qualifications. You have to win a show to get there, because there was like 36 qualified competitors at last year's Olympia, and they clearly felt like that was too much, and they wanted fewer. So I want to elaborate on this a little bit more. And I'll be honest, my honest opinion is that I liked the package that Nathan brought better than the package that Regan brought. And that's not a knock on Regan, but I did think that Nathan was going to win. And I did think that overall, personally, I thought his package was better. That's my opinion. But that's different than saying, I think that Regan won because the show was rigged in his favor. I do think it was a controversial call, but that doesn't mean the reason that I think it was controversial is because they wanted to gift Regan an Olympia spot. So I think this distinction needs to be made. The Olympia and the IFBB, they are separate. The people that run and promote the Olympia are not the same people that run and promote the IFBB. So when the Olympia makes money, if they sell a lot of pay-per-views, or if they sell a lot of tickets, yes, they pay their sanction fee to the IFBB for having an IFBB show that is the Olympia. But if they make money off the pay-per-views or the tickets, that's going to Mr. Olympia LLC. That's not going to the IFBB. If they make money, they benefit. So the reason why that's important is because when people say it's rigged because they wanted Regan at the Olympia, who is they? Because the people promoting the Olympia, the ones that would want people to buy pay-per-views, or if they wanted certain people to be qualified or whatever, they don't call the shots at this show. The IFBB does. It's two separate things. The IFBB benefits from the Olympia because basically every pro show is an Olympia. It feeds into the Olympia. That's the benefit. They can structure a bunch of shows leading up to the Olympia because people are going to want to get to the Olympia. And the IFBB collects their fees from those shows and the amateur shows associated with them. That's how the IFBB makes money from the Olympia. Not from pay-per-view sales, not from ticket sales, not from having a bodybuilder who is a massive influencer in the Olympia. It doesn't matter to the IFBB. So the reason why that distinction is important is because when you're talking about the promoter of the show, this Europa show that's halfway across the world from the Olympia, he has nothing to do with the Olympia. He's not involved with it at all. The judges at this show work for the IFBB. They don't work for the Olympia. So the reason why I don't agree with this kind of conspiracy theory, and I do agree that I think it's controversial that Regan beat Nathan here, is because nobody at this show stands to benefit from Regan being at the Olympia. It doesn't matter to anybody involved in this show. The judges that work for the IFBB here, it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to the promoter. It doesn't matter to the sponsors of this show in Spain that don't even sponsor the Olympia. None of the people involved would benefit at all from Regan going to the Olympia. It just doesn't make sense. And then if you did believe it, then you would have to believe that the Olympia went behind the IFBB's back all the way over to Spain to corrupt IFBB judges just to get a guy that placed dead last. And again, no disrespect to Regan, but at his last Olympia, he was dead last. So you would have to believe that the Olympia did all this to get a guy that was dead last to win this show, just so that he could be at the Olympia. And while I was watching people have this argument, the response that I see to this argument is, well, Regan would bring the Olympia significant ticket sales because his following is so big. And I actually don't agree with that. Because, yes, Regan has a great social media following, and he's a great guy, by the way. He's a really nice guy. Every time I've interacted with him, he's great. Great social media following, great content. But you've got to ask yourself, do you really think the people that follow Regan are not already bodybuilding fans? I think most of the people that follow Regan are already fans of professional bodybuilding, and if they're going to watch the Olympia, they're already going to watch it, whether he's in it or not. So yes, I think a large chunk of Regan's following will be watching the Olympia, but I don't think it matters if Regan's there or not, because I think they're watching because they follow other bodybuilders and they're fans of bodybuilding. So the real question is, how many people of Regan's massive following would only buy the Olympia just to see Regan? That's the real question, and I don't think that number is massive. I don't think that's a significant number to the Olympia. And again, not a knock on Regan, but if you're being realistic, how many people, are we talking hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, would only watch the Olympia if Regan's there? That's the logic. I don't believe that. I don't think the people at the Olympia believe that. And I don't think anybody would stick their neck out to rig a show based on that assumption. So I think it's perfectly fine to think Nathan should have won the show. And to an extent, I do agree with that. I think it's perfectly fine to think the decision was controversial and to want an explanation, really, from the judges of why did Nathan lose and why did Regan win? I think that's totally fair. But the fact that the main conversation is that people think it was all so that Regan could be gifted an Olympia qualification, I just don't see it at all. And I don't think that's really fair to Regan either, or to the judges, or to the IFBB, to think that a show could be rigged over something so insignificant. I just don't think that's a fair criticism. But just like the last video, I still want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Did anything that I just said change your mind, or do you still believe that this was a gifted decision for Regan and that the whole thing was rigged to get Regan to the Olympia because he'll bring, quote-unquote, more ticket sales or exposure because of his following? Oh, and I forgot about this too. I was going to say the other option too is the Olympia gives out a special invitation almost every year. So if they really wanted Regan there that badly, why risk trying to corrupt or pay off judges and promoters halfway across the world that they have no association with? Why risk going behind the IFBB's back and getting caught? Why risk the backlash from the fans of rigging a show when if they wanted Regan there that bad, they could just give him a special invitation and no one would even complain? But look, I do like this. I genuinely like when bodybuilding fans have a heated and really passionate discussion about a competition that's not even the Olympia because they feel so strongly one way or another about the result. I think that's good for bodybuilding. I think that discussion is good, but that's my opinion on it. I don't believe the Olympia placing or the Olympia qualification conspiracy, and that's kind of my explanation why. And I want to hear if you agree or disagree in the comments below. I'll be glad to check it out. Now, next up in the news, I missed this when I was on vacation this weekend, but I wanted to talk about this too. Breon Ainsley announced that with the new height and weight restriction increases, he would be not switching to 212 like he originally announced after last year's Olympia, but he's going to be staying in Classic Physique and competing in the Classic Physique Olympia again this year. And he even responded in the comments that he thinks he could weigh as much as 9 pounds heavier than the last time he was on stage, but he's going to shoot for 7. Now, the reason this is significant to Breon is for the past couple years, I think the last 2 Olympias in the Arnold Classic that Breon did, they gave the reason, him and his team, that he was struggling with making weight. And at the last minute, that's kind of what was leading for his physique to not look the way they wanted it to, and it was really hard for him to make weight. So this weight increase could be significant. Breon's a shorter guy, Chris is a taller guy. Theoretically, it could help close that gap between him and Chris, or even him and Ramon. Ramon's taller too. So first of all, I would say that Breon is better suited, for sure, for classic physique. I didn't think the switch to 212 was good. I thought if he was going to quit competing in classic, it would have been better for him to just retire. He's 43. I just didn't see him doing anything significant in 212 because he started in 212. He was bigger in 212 than he was in classic when he started as a pro, and he never even won a 212 show. So for him in his 40s to continue competing and risk his health in a division that I don't think he's as well suited for as classic, I didn't really understand that decision. So I understand why he's going back and why he feels like this weight increase would benefit him. So with that being said, I understand the decision to stay in classic, and I like it better than his decision to go to 212. And I'm happy to see him back on the classic physique Olympia stage. And I think he's got a great classic physique, which is why I think he's suited for that division. Now, that being said, I don't think that this weight increase is going to lead him to beating Chris Bumstead. He was 4th at last year's Olympia, and he was 4th at last year's Arnold Classic. At the Olympia, he was behind Urs Kausinski, Ramon Dino, and Chris Bumstead. At the Arnold Classic, he was behind Terrence Ruffin, Ramon Dino, and Urs Kausinski. He did beat Terrence at the Olympia, so he technically moved up. So to understand these weight increases, everybody gets one. The shorter guys get a disproportionately larger and more advantageous weight increase. The taller guys still get a slight weight increase, so it's not like they don't get anything. They still get a slight advantage too, but the shorter guys have a significantly better advantage. And prior to last year, Terrence had beaten Breon twice at the Olympia. Terrence is even shorter than Breon and will likely have an even greater weight increase than Breon. So Breon this year, even with his weight increase, would have to look so much better than in the past to not only beat Ramon and Urs to get a shot at Chris again, I think he's also going to have to beat Terrence because I think Terrence is going to be significantly better. So realistically, I don't think that Breon will win the title back because of this. I think he'll still be first call out. I think he'll still be in the mix. I think his physique will look better. But I think, honestly, his placing will be about the same. And again, feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments down below. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today, this latest physique update of Brandon Curry. We got a full posing video from Brandon's coach, Abdullah, and a lot of people seem to say the same thing. In the comment section of this post, a lot of people saying, same video every year, same pictures every year, same story every year. And Abdullah really didn't give us any context as to when this video is from. He's posted a couple updates of Brandon that he claims are from this particular prep. So I would assume, based on the trend, because he's been posting more frequently updates of Brandon, that this would also be from this prep. But I don't think that we can assume it's necessarily from 7 or 8 weeks out. And Brandon looks good here. He's in his 40s. So I don't know how much different people expect Brandon to look in these updates or what really changes they want to see. But I do agree that he looks about the same to me as what we typically see from him in an Olympia prep update. And if he does look about the same, without any significant improvements, what does that mean for his Olympia placing this year? What does that mean for his odds of ever reclaiming the title? He did beat Rami last year in placings. He was 4th and Rami was 5th, which was big for him because it was something he wasn't able to do the 2 years prior. So technically that was an improvement, but I think that had more to do with Rami being off than it did Brandon improving. So my question to you guys is, do you see anything in this video that suggests that Brandon will crack the top 3 or Brandon could reclaim his title? Or is the fact that Brandon has been kind of forgotten about and left out of the conversation as a contender, do you think that's just because that's what's going to happen? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. This video is going a little bit too long. I don't want it to hit 20 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Make sure you like the video, comment below, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NICKS&P. my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel, and consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.